What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel, or to the channel if it's your first time. So the last couple of days I've been doing a series of videos comparing different farming runs to each other and seeing which one is most efficient depending on whether you want materials, titanium, legendaries, or a combination of those items. And I know that the title that I use for this video is extremely ambitious, the complete guide to farming. In reality, I would have probably called it something like a complete guide to what to farm based on where you are and based on this or that, but that obviously doesn't work as a title for a video. So here we are. Now the objective of today's video is twofold. Finally, I'm going to pull in comparable challenge tier 15 farming to stack alongside these other runs and how I've shown them. And so that's going to be able to allow us to compare essentially apples to apples and to see an hour's worth of effort with, for instance, farming Hauras gets you this, and an hour's worth of effort, for instance, farming CT15 gets you that. That's objective number one. Objective number two is also just to discuss what I think players should be doing depending on which state they are in the game. So basically, where they are at the moment in the game. And I'll explain that when we get to that part. But for now, basically we can just let's first of all, let's just get the data on the screen here. So as you can see, as I mentioned before, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take an hour and see in an hour how much, how many expeditions, how many CT15 expeditions I could get done. And then also to see what rewards I would get from those. First of all, you'll notice that the 5 runs that I was able to do and the times for those runs are up here as well. Are all 3 of them are chemical plant and 2 of them are heart of the wild. For me, the expeditions where I have to fight mostly monsters are easier than fighting soldiers, and more specifically marksmen or snipers that fucking hit you from the back. That's just a preference thing for me, and other people might feel different and might prefer to do the runs where they fight more soldiers than fucking monsters. But I think that's a personal preference thing. I personally hate getting fucking sniped, and the Technomancer that I'm playing in all of these runs is built extremely glass cannony, so I have to be extremely careful when I'm going up against soldiers, especially snipers, marksmen, or stuff that's hitting me from behind, because of the fact that I don't have a lot of defensive abilities. I can easily get clocked by a double tap, or something can freeze me and then they can hit me with a shot and it can basically take me out. Now, the caveat to this is chemical plant. Whenever I see chemical plant, I take that because chemical plant has that small shortcut in it where you can basically dodge, having to kill a whole bunch of minions, and that always just gets you like an improved time. But nonetheless, on all 5 of these, I got chemical plant first. On the next one, I got heart of the wild. The next one, there was a bunch of other stuff. So I went into an expedition, immediately backed out, and then I was able to get chemical plant again. So essentially, I was just making sure that I get those 2 right now. Now that added a small amount of time to my total time that I tried to squeeze into the hours, so it didn't eat up too much of the experience basically. Now I wouldn't say, and I will produce a separate video on that where I will show the build of my Technomancer, because this is by far the character that I've farmed the most content with. I do, however, have challenge tier capable characters in the other classes. I just prefer to play the Technomancer because it just feels easier for me. I was able to complete in the times that are on the screen here right now, and as you can see, in each run I was able to get some rares, some epics, and all in all I was able to get 5 legendaries in 1 hour. 2 times getting 2 basically from the same box, and 1 time getting 1. Now all of this translates into a dismantle totals of 4,197 titanium if I dismantle all of those, 15,000 leather if I dismantle all of them, and 3,312 iron if I dismantle all of them. Also, because I completed all of them in gold, I was able to get 371,000 drop pod resources. And then lastly, also because it's actually a small amount of gear, dismantling that gear gives you a small amount of shards as well, which I also mention here as limited shards, because again, it's not a lot of gear, so you're not getting like a hell of a lot of shards, like for instance the 1,100 items that you dismantle when you do Hauras, for instance, for an hour. So if we then move on to the MTL rate portion, which is this graph that I've created, that is the materials, titanium, and legacies farming efficiency for something based on an hour. we then have all 5 of the farming methods for which I produced videos basically during the last week. And we have them stacked up against each other. So from a materials perspective, you'll see that the CT15 Expeditions still offers the least out of all of them. And from a titanium perspective, it's actually pretty good. It's like the 3rd best. But from a legendaries, it's obviously superior. There's 5 there. Now, again, these are RNG legendaries, of course, right? So I could have gotten 3 from a box. I could have gotten 1 from a box every time, which would have given me 5 as well. I could have gotten 2 from every box, which could have given me fucking 10. It all depends on how lucky you are on the day. And that's fine. That's understood. But as a given, just due to the fact that when you're doing CT15, it's a 25% chance of a legendary drop from each one of those pods. You are overall, you have a much better chance of getting legendaries when you're doing this. Now, I just want to close the circle on one other topic, and that is that while we're looking at the screen right here right now, it looks like it's still better to, for instance, if you're looking for raw materials, or if you're looking for the best titanium per hour, it's better to run Hauras. But there's one thing that we have to consider here, and this has been mentioned by some people in the comment section of the other videos, but it's that drop pod resources are part of the economy in the game that you can use to essentially use Bailey and Tiago, the 2 vendors in your camp, so the chick in the wheelchair and the other dude. You're able to, for instance, sell drop pod resources for scrap, and you can use that scrap to buy leather, iron, and whatever else you need. Likewise, you're also able to, for instance, if you have an abundance of titanium, you're able to change that titanium into drop pod resources. So if you have a huge amount of titanium and you want to pay for the early levels of leveling up your gear, that can often pay for it because of the exchange being, fairly decent, of essentially a 2-to-1. So the point is that you are able to use, for instance, if you've chased up far enough within the challenge tiers and you want to level up gear, you're not forced to do expeditions to get drop pod resources. You can actually swap titanium into drop pod resources and do it that way as well. But the reason why I'm mentioning drop pod resources is it's true. If you are doing CT15 expeditions, you're getting all of this stuff already on the screen here that I'm saying, and you're getting drop pod resources, and you have no use for those resources because your gear is all level 50 and you don't need to use it anymore, and there's nothing you want to upgrade anymore. Then you can change the drop pod resources into any one of the other resources you want. And then by far, CT15s is the most lucrative way of stocking up your character. And if you're able to comfortably do CT15s, then of course it's going to be the optimum way to gather material and to stock up and to have the maximum of everything. However, the idea of these videos that I've been producing, and the idea of this whole series has always been that not everybody is able to comfortably do CT15s. And also the other thing is, for some people, if their goal is to get, let's say for argument's sake, 70,000 drop pod resources, and they're trying to do a CT15, or they do 3 CT13s or something like that, but they die a whole bunch of times while they're doing that, and it's not guaranteed, and they essentially struggle for hours. It might in actual fact be easier for them to just farm out the titanium and just change that into drop pod resources and then be able to upgrade their gear. So the idea has always been to give you alternatives to what you can be doing. Maybe you don't feel like doing expeditions. Expeditions always feel extremely sweaty to me, and even though my build that I have with my character allows me to, I would say, do it comfortably, that I'm not really freaking out that I'm going to die or something like that, it is, however, something that I have to pay attention to, and I have to look at where I'm standing, and I shouldn't stand near the fire, and I need to be fucking fast and all of that. Whereas standing and shooting Hauras for fucking 2 hours to get a whole bunch of titanium is that not that big a deal. So then, to finish off the last part of the video, and let me then bring up this part on the screen here, is I wanted to make some suggestions as to what you should do as a player, and I'll explain each one of the lines individually, depending on where you are at a certain part in the game and what could give you the best return on investment for your time. This game is one of those games that rewards the more time you spend with it. Obviously, the more materials you have, the more gear you have and everything like that. But the reality is that not everybody has the luxury of being able to sit down and play this game for 8-9 hours at a time. And gearing up to go from CT1 to CT15 can be an extremely daunting thing for a person that only has an hour to play every second day or something like that. And whether that's even then something that they're going to push for in the end is also up for discussion. But nonetheless, what they could then do is go up in challenge tiers incrementally, but then use these other farms to backfill the titanium into drop pod resources to upgrade their gear. Likewise, if you're trying to farm CT levels and still flesh out your loadout, or rather your mods on your gear and how they're configured, that's going to be more difficult than just going, okay, these are the stats that I'm looking for, these are the mods that I'm looking for, let me just do Hauras or Typhon for like 2 or 3 hours and see how much epic gear I can get to drop so that I can try and get the configuration that I'm looking for. Okay, so let's go through these one by one. So I'm saying that if you've just gotten to level 30 but you're not world tier 15 yet, because that in my mind should be it's weird for me that somebody would chase all the way up to CT 15 without having world tier 15 yet. I don't know, it's kind of strange, but anyway, I suppose you could do that if you want to, but I would say that if you just got to 30 and you're not world tier 15 yet, maybe you're like at 9, 10, 11, something like that, then I would do the hunts farm, which is the repeating of the hunts quest. You could definitely do the repeating of the bounty hunt, which is the human hunt as well, but that's, I would say, more difficult than the monster hunts. And you can farm that and you essentially do all 10, go and return them, get a legendary, do all 10, go and return them, get a legendary. And this is going to give you very good XP to get your world tiers up. And also remember that world tier 12, 13, 14, and 15 all reward you with legendaries as well. So you're going to have a whole good stock of legendaries coming in there during that time, and you're still not even touching challenge tier. Remember, these are just my suggestions. It's not the only way to do it. It's just, I'm a, path of least resistance kind of guy. And so I am just offering up alternatives to, what a lot of the other creators are saying. So, of course, you can do a mixture of these things and do it your own way. But, it's just some advice. The second thing is, let's say, for instance, you got to 30, you got to, world tier 15, something like that. But you realize that you still are missing quite a few of the tier 1 or tier 2 mods that you need to essentially complete your mod bank so that you have access to all of the tier 1 and tier 2 mods, which you're definitely able to do without setting foot into the to challenge tiers. I would suggest the Hauras farm to you. And the reason why I suggest the Hauras farm to you is essentially every 90 minutes, you can end up with about 1,100 to 1,200 pieces of gear dropping for you. And disassembling all of that gear is going to give you basically all of the mods that you need. You could also do Typhon. Typhon would be fine as well. Hauras just gives you even more than Typhon. So yeah. The third one, you need a large amounts of iron and leather. So again, I just want to preface this by saying none of these lines here assume that you can do challenge tier 15 in an expedition comfortably. Because if you can do challenge tier 15 in an expedition comfortably, then you don't need my guide, first of all. And secondly, you won't have issues like not having tier 1 and tier 2 mods unlocked. You won't have issues of not having materials unlocked. You won't have issues of not having the right shards to configure gear, because by the sheer fact that you've gotten to the point that you are at CT15 and you farmed your way up there, which means you have a viable build that can do those runs, you have already sorted out all these other problems. So these are for the people that can't do that. So if you need large amounts of iron and leather, same thing. Hauras or Typhon is good for that, because you're talking, it's a numbers game here. You want as much gear as possible that you can dismantle and get that. All of this gear and everything drops at level 42, so it's still not, each level of gear as it gets higher gives you more materials when you dismantle it. So 42 is by far not the best, but it's still fairly decent. And like I said, it's a mindless farm. You could almost do this with one hand. And you could do something else while you're doing this. Maybe you're just chilling. Maybe you, I don't know, have a fucking hangover. I don't care. But this is very easy compared to doing something slightly more sweatier in the challenge tiers. Fourth one there, need a large amount of titanium. Same thing. So again, Hauras and Typhon here are good for that because you're getting a large amount of gear, which a lot of it is of the epic variety. Any epics that you dismantle give you titanium. So wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Now, easy guaranteed legendaries per hour, which you could almost say in a way you can target. There are many guides online showing how you can basically see which legendary drops, and then you can alt F4 your game and come back in if it's not the legendary that you were looking for. But what I'm referring to here is you can either do the hunts, which you get from Noah in Trenchtown, or you can do the bounty hunts, which is the humans, which is from the other guy in the bar. I forget his fucking name. And the difference is with the hunts, the animal hunts, you'll only ever get armor. And with the bounty hunts, with the humans that you hunt, you'll only ever get weapons. So in a way, you can target that. If you're more interested in completing your armor sets, definitely go for for Noah. And if you're more interested in weapons, then go for the other side. And again, like I said, there are ways that you can look and see which drop. I'm sure you can Google that. There are ways that you can look and see what dropped, and then if it's not what you wanted, you can alt F4 your client, come back in and get it to drop again, and until you find the thing that you're looking for. A lot of people are doing this to complete their sets if they're looking for one specific item that's just not dropping. The second last one, so if you need shards for armor and weapon stats, shards is the odd one out here, and that is that again, it's a numbers thing. You want as much gear as possible to drop. What I mean by armor weapon stats is your supplementary stats that you have on gear, like for instance close range damage, long range damage, status power, you know, whatever, anything like that. So those you're only going to get from dismantling gear, and you actually don't get a shitload of it from dismantling gear. And of course, once you start leveling up your gear to level 50, especially once you get to level 50, you want to cap these out to make your weapon or your gear as effective as possible and it's in its best version that it can be. And then the last one here, prep for higher CTs and expeditions. I mentioned here that Hauras in combination with expeditions, but the hunts farm in combination with expeditions can also work here. And what I mean by this is that if you find that basically how it works is the challenge tiers when you do them, when you're trying to do, for instance, let me give you an example. Let's say if you're trying to do a 14 and you haven't succeeded in doing a 14 yet, you're able to level up your gear to level 49, which is the second best level that it can be. So, but what you can do is you can either step your challenge tiers down and then farm it and accumulate all your drop pod resources together so that you can start upgrading your gear, because you'll notice that you're going to have a significantly easier time doing a challenge tier 14, for instance, with all of your gear pieces being level 49 rather than just one of your gear pieces being 49. So this is a great way to supplement your titanium income to pay for that if you don't want to be struggling with expeditions the whole time. Maybe you're fucking tired of expeditions, so this is an alternative for you to do. That's in a nutshell the whole thing. Now there's a couple of more I would say points and everything that I want to cover and that I'll do in future videos, looking at if there's ways to do some of these things even more efficiently. Of course, I'm always looking around in the game, and I have a couple of ideas of what to suggest. That's in the works, as well as just detailing the build of my Technomancer that I did this right now and recorded all of this content because some of the people in the comments have asked for that. So of course I'll make that a priority as well. I guess I'll do that next. But hopefully this has helped, and I know that it's been a super long video. I think it's almost at 20 minutes, and if you've lasted this long and watched it, thank you very much, and thanks for watching all of the other videos. And I hope that this has helped you with some alternatives if you're new to the game, or you just got to 30, or you know all this challenge tier shit is weird to you and it's too much, you know, information, and it's too difficult or something like that. Hopefully this helps you, gives you some ideas of what you can do additionally to just supplement your materials and your titanium and so on, so that you can make some moves with your character, or basically get as much epics as possible so you can try out some different builds. Maybe you want to pivot from a firepower build to a anomaly power build or something like that. So definitely do Hauras then, because you're just going to get a lot of gear to drop and you can tailor your build however you want to. But that's it for me. Please go ahead and comment and like down below. Let me know what you're doing right now to gear out. The comments on the other videos have been phenomenal. I really love the engagement from everybody, and this series has really taken off for me, and I really do appreciate all the positive feedback that I'm getting from everybody. I read each and every one of those comments and I love them. Thank you guys very much. I can't say thanks enough. But And of course, I'm on my way to 1,000 subscribers, which is a huge milestone for me. And there's a lot of those subscribers have come in the last week. So I'm very appreciative of that. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe, especially if you're interested in content like this, because there's a lot more coming of it. And it definitely does help me grow the channel and bring more of it to you. But without any further ado, have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.